man-to-man, one-on-one coverage because the safety rolls to Jefferson's side.
This guy's like becoming like a circus act. Like he could do this.
Von Rock caught a ball with his thighs. We didn't even talk about that.
It was more of with his ass.
If he throws a good ball, this is a running, catching touchdown untouched.
Right. To become who we want to be as individuals, and at the end of the day, that's going to help us be a successful offense.
Like KP does like these flips after every win. And I'm like just waiting for him to do his flips.
You can tune in anywhere that you guys follow us on social media.
Shout out to Jalen Ramsey. He sucks.
Welcome to the Practice Squad podcast. My name is John. I'm joined by my co-host Mark. And man, we're right back into the thick of things. Free agency, NFL Combine, a lot of draft talk. There's so much to talk about, and we actually have a very special guest that we're going to be bringing on today as well. So jam-packed episode. I'm ready to go.
Mark, a lot of good stuff,
how are you feeling? And do you want to intro our guest?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. There's a lot of stuff we'll cover today, but we want to get into our guest we're really excited to have on. Special person to me personally, but he's a very successful longtime NFL coach, over 20 years between the NFL and college. He's been doing it a long time. He actually just entered into retirement. So we're going to bring him on, Coach John Bonamego, and kind of talk about his career and just hear some cool stories. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing great, Mark. Thank you. How's it going, John? You good?
Oh, yeah, doing great. So awesome. Thanks for coming on, and we're really looking forward to kind of hearing your story and digging into a few things.
Yeah. Coach, you've kind of been, you've had such a long, successful career, and you've accomplished so much. John, if we want to pull up kind of just his timeline of, when you first started coaching high school football all the way to, all of his years in college and NFL and a head coach. I mean, he's really accomplished a lot here, and you can kind of just look down this list.
Yeah,
that's
pretty modest resume we got going there.
It's impressive. It's something to be proud of, Coach. I know when you're in the thick of things, I don't know how much you reflect and just realize how special that is and how impressive it is, but that's something to be proud of, and I think that's really cool.
Well, and one thing I want to ask too is of these, do any of these kind of stand out in your mind just as like kind of staples of your career for any of these teams that you spent time with?
Well, they're all special because, each of those institutions, each one of those experiences represents people. And that's the first and foremost, the most important thing, so it's not about the job or the title or, where it is geographically as much as it is the people that you're working with on a daily basis. And that's the players, obviously, but it's also the other people on the staff. I would say, they're all special for one reason or another. I think, University of Maine, because, coming out of CMU, wanting to try to get a graduate assistant position. I mean, I wrote to every single Division I school in the country, and I got, I think there was 135 at that time. I think I got 130 letters back, and I was naive enough to think that they really were keeping my resume on file. I kept a lot of those letters. I still have them in a book. It's just because I was waiting for somebody to call back, but just to have that first opportunity and then for it to lead to the first full-time opportunity, which is, anybody in the coaching industry knows that's really the hardest thing when you go from a graduate assistant, or nowadays, there's so many ways to get involved as a quality control or an analyst position, but then, getting that on the field and one of the accountable coaches, that's an important milestone. Army, my time there, I think, all under Coach Bob Sutton, I really had a chance to grow and develop as a coach. It was a tremendous laboratory. Of all of the places, that group of young men, just because of what they stand for, what the experiences that they have, not just as Army football players, but as cadets, and then, leaving the academy and going on and serving our country, that's a really special group.
That's special.
Jacksonville, special town, special job, because it was, again, my first NFL job. That led to, that led to me meeting the love of my life, my wife, Paulette. And, so that wouldn't have happened. And then, after that, I think, the Saints was really, really cool. Just because of the time we got there. I was on Coach Payton's initial staff. We got there 6 months right after Katrina. The city was still devastated, and just just everything we went through that first year, training camp, and then playing every preseason game on the road, and then even the first 2 regular season games, and then opening at the when the Superdome reopened, just the energy and the vibe that was surrounded that game, a Monday night game, was surreal. Detroit was always special because it was back in Michigan, and that led to really my dream job and having the opportunity to be the head coach at Central Michigan for 4 years, and then back to Detroit, and then finally out in LA. So, I mean, they're all unique among themselves. I think they all have a lot of great memories. And then, there's a lot of them that there's always those games where you wish you had, one more play or, 30 more seconds, or, that's just the way it is in this business. So, it's really about the journey and the people. I would say that's, if you have one takeaway from this, that's where those are the things that are most important to me.
That's awesome, Coach. Just having those connections in all those different places, and just the amount of people that you've probably inspired or been inspired by, and just during all of that. One place that's special, and we'll lead with this question because John's a Saints fan. You have a Gleason jersey, Brees jersey hanging behind you. That night that you mentioned, right? That game coming off of Katrina, and the city kind of just, it was tarnished, right? It was, people were struggling, people were mourning, and you want to pull up this clip, John, and kind of we'll watch it. It's about a minute of the play, and then I would love to hear your emotion during it, Coach, and of what this play means to you, and then we'll go into the X's and O's behind it too a little bit.
Yeah, this was following like a 4th down, 3rd down sack, and we had this scheme drawn up. We had a pretty strong tip going into the game in terms of how they were going to turn the protection. And really, we ended up running it to the left, but it could have been run to the right as well. We practiced it both ways. Aaron Stecker, number 27, is the first one through on the A gap on the left side, and Steve Gleason's the one wrapping around to create the overload. And, if our tip had been the opposite, where we thought they were going to turn the protection the other way, it would have been Gleason through first and Stecker on the wrap. And so, it was something, it was a pretty simple scheme, nothing too complex, but we had the right people in the right positions. And, I think I surprised Sean a little bit when we got this, we get the sack on 3rd down in the first series. I said, I want to come after him. Let's go for it. And he looked at him. He's like, now? And I said, yeah. And he goes, yeah, okay. And, the rest is history. And really, I remember, I talked to Mike Tirico several times after that game. I would say we're pretty good friends, but I think the most telling thing was that, the guys in the booth, they stopped talking. And for about a minute, the roof was about to come out. Yeah, it was like all of that emotion that whole city had felt, kind of came to a head just with that,
Just what did that feel like, Coach? To be a part of. Did you realize it in the moment of how, almost like a revival of an entire city that had been just destroyed?
I was just trying to make sure we got 11 out there to kick the extra point. No, I mean, we were certainly happy. I mean, looking back on it now, I mean, it was huge. You know, when you're in the coaching world, you never to stay in one moment too long, whether it's good or bad, because you have, you got the next play, the next series, the next quarter, the next half, the next game that you always have to be, prepared for. So you can't stay in the past ever. You have to always, keep looking forward. But it was definitely, I'm glad it was Steve. He's just a phenomenal human being, and I'm glad he is an adopted New Orleanian, because he married into a great family there. He still lives there, and so if it was going to be somebody, I'm really glad that it was Steve Gleason that made the play.
Yeah, Coach, there's a cool story with Steve Gleason just a couple of years ago. So I coach with my dad now, and we were coaching the state championship a couple seasons ago. And I work for Mark Campbell, who connected with Steve Gleason, and his team was also in the state championship.
I had Mark.
So, yeah, Mark's a great guy. But he got a
quick story about Mark real quick.
Sure.
So Reggie Bush's first touchdown, which I think, let's see if we could do this. See that right there?
Yeah.
That's on the far right's the Polaroid that Reggie signed for me. His first NFL touchdown was a punt return against Tampa Bay, and it was to win the game. It was like a 12-7 game, 4 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. They punt the ball to us, and, Josh Bidwell was a punter, puts it right down the middle of the field, and we had a wall return, and he goes untouched and scores. Well, Mark wasn't a starter on the punt return team, but he was a backup, right? So on third down, I forget who it was, it goes down. I mean, the guy's out, right? And so I got to send Mark in. I'm like, we're going to the left backer position. And he looks back at me and he goes, what do I do? And the original scheme was for him to hold up the guard and trail him. But I didn't tell Mark at the time, I didn't think he could run well enough to stay with that guy. So I said, force the B gap and wrap to the wall. And he ends up, forcing the B gap, coming around, and ends up making a key block. We had several of them on that play. But, you talk about speaking the same language, the ability to midstream adjust, communication, all of those things, it goes both ways. You can't, to his credit, we joke around about I didn't think you could run with him, but, he understood what had to be done because he put the time in, and it just worked out perfectly for us. But anyways,
that's
an awesome story.
He was prepared for his moment.
He was.
Yeah.
And
as a Saints fan, I'm smiling ear to ear just hearing all of that too. And I gotta ask, a huge reason why I so avidly watched the Saints and loved the Saints was just because of the relationship I think that Sean Payton and Drew Brees had. I know that you've kind of been around the league. Do you feel like that really was a special and unique
there isn't any question about it.
They're successful for that long.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, it was a match made in heaven. Just the two temperaments, how they think, but I think, Drew Brees is a special guy, when it comes to his, for just his attention to detail, his meticulous work ethic, his, this guy put in, when I say he put in coach's hours, Friday is the day in the NFL where players are out the door at noon, and usually the coaches aren't gone much later than that. I was always one of the last people to leave on Fridays, and without question, Drew was always always in the quarterback room, watching film, taking notes. And this is, it's on a Friday. And like I said, everybody else in the building's gone. There wasn't a day where if he missed a throw in practice, there wouldn't be, there wasn't a day where he wouldn't keep guys after practice, and he would make that throw again over and over and over until he felt like, he felt good about it. And, he might not have the guys running the whole route, probably just the top of the route, but he would be taking us full drop, full speed, helmet on, shoulder pads on. And, it's not a secret why he was so successful. He had just, he had all
incredible competitor,
the physical tools and the mental capacity, but the competitive drive, the work ethic, and then the attention to detail, and really, being able to set your ego aside as well. I mean, it's just it's a rare combination that you see that somebody has all of those qualities, the tangible and the intangible. That's really what makes them great.
That's awesome. Yeah, and just to finish too with the Steve Gleason, I mean, you got the jersey hanging behind you. Long story short, he made a pregame speech that Mark was able to get, and he sent it to our high school team before our game, and it was just super inspiring, everything that he had to say, and my dad was just in awe of his words, and we ended up losing the game, but just incredible person, and it's when you came on and you had the Gleason jersey behind you. I mean, we had already planned to talk about that and ask about the blocked punt. It's just worked out where you had that and Drew Brees too. The first two questions about the first two people we talk about, you got hanging right behind you.
Yeah, I've got a whole wall up here. I don't have as much room as I need to put everything up, but I try to, I got Calvin and I've got Brett Favre up here and I've got Tony Baselli, and that's. And then,
pretty good class. Pretty good class there.
Those are the only ones I've got room for,
One question I also had was, you spent a lot of time coaching college and you spent a lot of time coaching NFL. A lot of guys don't really make that transition super well. And I think it's just because, different athlete, different profile, right? Those guys are at very different stages in their career. Do you feel like you had to make any adjustments as a coach to kind of go back and forth between those two types of players? And is there any kind of wisdom that you could maybe pass on to other coaches as far as making that transition goes?
I just think you always have to understand what your audience is, but coaching is coaching. I mean, it's not about what it's about what the players can, what they know, what you can teach them, and what you can get them to go out and collectively execute, whether it's offense, defense, or in the kicking game. And I just think, I've always been big on the fundamentals. So, that was going to be a part of everything that we did to try to, and it's, the fundamentals. Well, there's a lot to it. There's an awful lot to it. And when it's taught the right way, it transitions to every aspect of offense and defense. And, even seasoned veterans, when you can give them something to sink their teeth in that makes sense to them, you're not teaching anything different than you would to a high school freshman, but those things that's what those are the building blocks that your techniques and then eventually your schemes are built off of. Obviously, I think, the relationships are super important. I think, in the NFL, it's more about, I think, teaching guys, especially young players, what it means to be a professional and trying to help them improve their craft so that they can use their skills and continue to make a living. And I think that, you do have relationships, but it's so transient. It's not the same as I think in the college realm, I always valued the mentoring aspect of coaching. I think that's really important. I think and a lot of times it's maybe underrated, just how important that is, especially, Mark, at the high school level where you're catching, young men in their formative years. And I mean, the confidence that they can get by learning to play a position or having, it can never be understated how much that can do to help a person become hey, look, that's the reason I went to college. I mean, I wanted to play college football. The education, which I value much more now, that was a byproduct, really. I'm just being honest, of me wanting to go and play, 4 more years, 5 more years of football somewhere.
Right.
I just don't think that, when you're entrusted in that role, I think it's one of the most important roles that you can have. It really is. I mean, that's why the title coach, to be a coach to me has always been, I address coaches as coach because just more out of respect than anything else. And I don't know if I answered the question, but that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, you definitely did. Coach, one play that we got to watch, John, if we can pull up the Miracle Oklahoma State. This never gets old. People have added Titanic soundtracks over it. But if we could play with the volume, John, and just let's listen to it, and then Coach, we can break this down. Yeah, I'd love for our audience to hear the announcers' natural react, because they say the game's not over till there's zeros on the clock, but there were zeros on the clock.
Right. He's in a shotgun. 3 players lined up essentially by the goal line. Rush, stepping up, throw it to Kroll, catches the lateral. Here comes Willis racing to the end zone.
Never gets old.
Unbelievable!
It's just
Michigan does it.
Just the raw emotion of the announcing, I think, tells the story. But Coach, can you kind of break this play down a little bit and just talk about? I mean, was this practiced? Was this was this just a prayer?
It wasn't practiced that way. It was really it's just 3-ram hurricane. 3-ram is the protection. Hurricane was the route, which was really just your traditional Hail Mary. I think
Hail Mary.
And I think Corey actually busted and ended up trailing, and Jesse Kroll just had a knack for that stuff. It's funny because I heard one of the announcers say that, Cooper Rush didn't have the arm strength to get the ball to the end zone. That's not the case. That wasn't the case at all. I think Cooper saw an opportunity to complete the pass, and give ourselves a chance to get a play started. And that's what he did. And so, honestly, most of what I remember about this particular play was a lot of the aftermath and a lot of the, the fallout that came, with it, unfortunately, because, it turns out it shouldn't have happened. But I've always gone back and said, look, it shouldn't have, but it did. They had 11 on the field. We had 11 on the field, and we made a play, and they should have stopped it. And, there were people that really wanted, newspaper articles that, wanted me to, vacate the victory, questioned my integrity. And I'm like, not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
Our guys worked too hard to put themselves in position, not just for that play, but the whole entire 60 minutes of the game. Honestly, it's we stayed within striking distance. I mean, I still remember Devin Spalding bawling his eyes out because the offensive drive prior to that, he turned the ball over. We were driving within regulation, turned the ball over, and then they tried to run the clock out. And, that play is one that everybody has in their playbook. It's, we call it Big Ben, where, on an incomplete pass, it goes out of bounds. The clock doesn't stop until the ball hits the ground. So, but, my argument was that Oklahoma State had done it from a tight formation, right? They threw the ball downfield, and
there was no
Yeah, there was no receiver anywhere near. That's
right.
That's grounding by definition. Where, we practiced it. We always had a split receiver, and we're going to throw it in that direction, right?
Right.
So, I don't know if I doubt the rule ever get changed, but that was my argument and that's, they bought it. I didn't know that.
Hey, we'll take it. They give you an opportunity to take what they give you. You were always a great motivator, coach, and you had some awesome. Most people probably don't know, but when I was playing for you, you would do these pre-practice meetings, okay, and a lot of times the meeting would start. You would never know what it was going to be, right? It would be a video. Might be a movie clip. Might be a story about a bull. There's all kinds of stuff that was told, but this one stuck with me because I had never seen the movie, and I'm Italian, and you mentioned if you're Italian in this room and you haven't seen this, you need to go home and watch. I went home and watched it after, but you played this clip, the famous "Now's you can't leave" quote. You want to talk a little bit about why you chose this clip and why you showed it and what the message was?
You have a whole library of stuff that I've used over the years, and a lot of it came from special teams meetings. But this one particular was about playing at home versus playing on the road. And you have a good opponent, a tough opponent coming in. Playing in your stadium. We don't want to be you come in, but once they start to disrespect, then the game changes. And so we're going to defend, our turf, defend our territory. So that was the whole message behind that one.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite. I went home, I watched it that night. I said, okay, I understand why he chose that clip. But that was one of my favorite things that you had pulled up and chose for something to try to inspire the team. Any edge you could find of motivation, you found it. And I think we were pretty motivated after that clip. Absolutely.
Another question I had too is obviously you spent some time with the Lions and you spent some time with the Rams. What was kind of the whisperings around the building when that Stafford trade was brewing up? And do you feel like, he was kind of a different player coming to LA that made him successful, or you think he's the same guy and he just had a better, support, be it coaching or, the guys he was on the field with?
I think I've always been a Matt Stafford fan. It's when you're around him, it's hard not to be. Number one, he's incredibly talented. Two, they don't come any tougher. And three, he's a phenomenal teammate. And he treated everybody the same. It would be it didn't matter if it was a 10-year vet or somebody that just came on the practice squad. Matt Stafford was going to be Matt Stafford, which is to be a consummate professional. I was excited because I knew both personalities. I watched Sean McVay work for a year, and how he communicates and how he runs his offense. And just knowing Matt, I felt like, man, this was going to be, and his personality and I just felt like it was going to be a really great marriage, of two very like-minded individuals, very similar to we talked about, the Sean Payton and Drew Brees, and again, it's two different personalities, but are they going to mesh? And you saw what happened in year one.
Yeah, have that chemistry,
Yeah. And I've got a Stafford jersey. I got to get that up there.
Got to add that to the collection. Okay. Coach, you won a lot of games and you had a lot of success and a lot of tough battles, but maybe your toughest battle was probably beating cancer, right? Do you want to talk a little bit about that and just kind of the emotional roller coaster that came with that? It was obviously a shock, and then to be able to beat it and inspire a whole bunch of people in the process.
I think I just gotten the central job. I've been on the job for like 5 months, and I was in Florida for my son's graduation. I get this lump sticking out of my neck, and cancer diagnosis doesn't happen overnight. And if it does, it's probably really, really bad, so it's not like you just go in and take your blood pressure, give you a blood test, and say, "Oh, this is what you got." It's a process of elimination, and you're thinking in the back of your mind that it could be this, but you don't know yet. And then when you get the diagnosis, it's like, all right, well, what are you going to do now? And for me, it was, there was a couple things. Number one, we had a teammate that was fighting it for his third time and wasn't doing really well, and that was Derrick Nash. So
right.
that was the number one thing for me. Number two, because of that, it was important to me that I was the one to share the information with the team. I was deathly afraid that somehow then it would get leaked, because I was going to doctor visits down in Ann Arbor, but I was also regularly going into like the cancer ward there in Mount Pleasant. And I just, I would kind of try to sneak around because it just takes one person in especially small town like Mount Pleasant for a rumor to get going. That was the number one thing I was really afraid of is that something would get out. I wanted the team to hear it from me. And, the last part was, man, I had just worked too hard. I'd come too far to not, try to coach through it. We asked players to play injured all the time. This was something, again, it's personal. It's up to your own tolerance. And, can you handle it? And I have a great support system starting at home with my wife, Paulette, my kids, and then back at the office with our coaching staff and then our players. And I just more or less put it to them that, look, this is just another opponent we got on our schedule, but this is one that I've got to fight on my own. And, what I need you guys to do is just stay focused on the things that we can control and getting ready for the season and our opponents, because there may be some empathy there from the opponents, but when we play them, they're going to try to beat us. They're not going to care that your coach has cancer. It's not going to make any difference to them. They're going to still want to go out and win the game. And so we're not going to let that be any kind of crutch. But the overriding thing for me, I think, was I didn't want to let anybody down. When you're the head coach of at any level, there are a lot of people that's depending on you. There are a lot of people that are going to affected by the decisions that you make. And, I had a staff of, and their families to think about. And then, we had a whole team and a group of seniors that were going into their final year of football, and I didn't want to let them down. And so I gained a lot of my strength just from that, keeping that in mind. And, when I think back on it now, it was really a blur. You really are living and kind of just making it through sometimes, minute by minute, or hour by hour, day by day. There isn't enough time to talk about all the symptoms and all of that stuff, but it's grueling. It's not easy, but I think the fact that I had football, that I had something other than how I was feeling to take away, to keep my mind off of that, it really helped me make it through, because you're always thinking about the next practice, the next play. Again, like I said earlier in the show, you're always focused on what's coming up next. You can't live on, or succeed if you stay in the past.
And it seems like coaching in general has like a lot of highs and lows that then you're responsible for kind of emotionally regulating yourself through all of that. And do you think you've had a lot of success? Do you attribute some of your success to just kind of be able to those things that should get you excited? Okay, we got to focus on the next, and we can't let this stuff in.
You can't ride the roller coaster. I think that's true in life. I think that, you're going to go through your life and you're going to have really good times, and you're going to have times that are tougher. And, you just have to, when it's tough, you just have to, keep your nose to the grindstone and know that better days are coming ahead. And then, when you have success, don't forget what it took to get there and how, because, it's harder to stay than it is to arrive. I always say that, excellence, it's a process. It's not a destination. It's not, you don't just all of a sudden arrive at excellence. It's something that you work on daily, meticulously all the time. You're constantly working at being excellent. And that it's the habits that you develop. It's the relationships that you develop, and it's the knowledge that you gain by always questioning, and studying, questioning yourself. Is there a better way to do this? You can't always think that there's only one way. There's always a lot of ways. And, great coaches they figure that out. You can't, that's why I really in my heart believe that like some of the best coaches I know are coaching high school football, because they don't get to go out and recruit. All right. They have to constantly, year in and year out, maybe adjust to what they're doing schematically. They're always studying the game. And, there's a lot of really great coaches coaching high school football. It's not about where you're at and what, I was very blessed to have this career that I've had, in the NFL and in college, but, I never set out to be an NFL coach. That happened. I just wanted to be, I had a goal to be a head coach. That was like my only big goal. The rest of the time it's trying to be the best that you can be where you're at. I think too many people spend too much time, effort, and energy, trying to go the next level, when we're really, if they put that same time, passion, effort, and energy into where they were at, they'll get to where they want, because they're going to do well, and somebody's going to notice. If you do a good enough job long enough, somebody's going to notice.
Yeah, that's incredible advice. And I guess one last question for you before we let you go here is, you recently retired, and huge congrats for that. But instead of kicking your feet up, you're actually starting a new endeavor with a PSN.
I got two kids in college. I still have two left, that are on scholarship. So, and they're the Bonamego scholarship, not athletic scholarships. But no, I was incredibly fortunate to have earned a pension through the NFL, and really through a contact going back to my days at Army, started to look at some different things and considering different opportunities that might come up outside of football. And because my pension won't allow me to be employed in the sport of football. And this opportunity came up with BSN Sports. It's we're the largest distributor of athletic apparel and equipment in the United States. We have every major brand going down, from Nike to Under Armour. We do it all: uniforms, helmets, soccer goals. I mean, we have that one right there. There's a branch on there that does branding for campuses. It's really, I've been here just over a week now, and I'm blown away at all of the different things. You talk about one-stop shopping. If you're a school, if you're a high school head coach or administrator, and you guys are not with BSN, you need to be with BSN, because it just makes it so much easier, because you can literally do everything. We've got a tremendously large sales force. I think there's over 2,000, so there's always somebody nearby. My job description is to develop new business using some of my relationships. The new branch is BSN Sports Pro Select. And so I'm going to be using my contacts to try to get BSN in a few more NFL locker rooms and some other places as well. And I'm really looking forward to it. What I'm most looking forward to is I can stay right here in Florida, enjoy our home, be home with my wife and kids. I'll be able to travel some, still stay connected, be able to see a lot of people that I care about, communicate with them on a regular basis. But man, it's just been a really great opportunity, tremendous company, and I'm really proud and happy to be joining the BSN team, because that's what it is. It's a new team.
I'm sure they're glad to have you too, with a lifetime of football connections to work as well.
And I mean, not to mention just the leadership and competitive drive. I mean, Coach, you retired a few weeks ago, and already ready to jump into a new challenge and a new opportunity, which is I think that just shows why you had so much success as a coach and why you're probably going to absolutely crush this new role. And we're excited to see how well you do with it. And we appreciate you coming on. And
he's bought a new boat. It better pay something.
we Coach, this was an awesome time having you on.
You guys come down to Palm Coast, we'll go out on the boat, man.
That sounds like an awesome time.
Thanks so much for coming on, Coach. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Let's do it again sometime.
Yeah,
for sure,
absolutely.
Coach.
Anytime.
Awesome. Thank you.
You have a good one.
Thanks, Coach.
Bye-bye.
I mean, what an awesome guest. Obviously, just a lifetime of experience to pull from. And dude, you saw me. I was getting giddy just hearing about all of the Saints stuff. I'm like, man, he was right there for all of that stuff that made me a Saints fan.
When we first brought him in, right? Like we first added him into our stream here. Obviously, he had the Brees and Gleason jerseys hanging behind him. And so, if you're not watching it, you can check it out on YouTube, but he's got those right behind him. And I saw John's face, literally his jaw raised up. Just hilarious, man. What an awesome guest. I had the opportunity to play for him. Coach Bono saw something to me that no other Division I coach saw yet. He was the first Division I coach to give me a chance. And I'll never forget, we were at a Wayne State, hybrid camp between Wayne State and Central. He kind of followed me around for a few drills. And at the end, I was sitting there talking to my dad and a couple other players there, and all of a sudden he taps me on his shoulder. I turn around, it's Coach, and that's pretty rare for the head coach to just kind of come up and talk to random players. And he said, "Listen, if you want to come play Division I football, you have a home at Central Michigan." And I just, it was like I turned to my dad and was just like, "Did you hear that?" And he's like, "Yeah, I heard that." And then a few other opportunities followed, but those would not have came had he not given me a chance that day. And just to see it come full circle and see all of his success in one episode. I mean, that's why I wanted to get into doing this show, John, and why I reached out to you and why I thought you'd be an awesome co-host, because I knew we could do this together. And I knew that being able to help people share stories like he just shared that sometimes don't get out there. I mean, how many times has he told that story, but in a room of 5 people? I hope people can listen to this and enjoy it.
I mean, putting a spotlight on all of those small stories, I think is really, what makes doing this show fun. And also just it shows light on how small the football world is at the end of the day. Obviously, Mark Campbell's your boss. Mark Campbell used to be my neighbor, and also, Coach Mark Campbell, and was, helping him out with apparently special teams that led to Reggie Bush's first touchdown as an NFL player. So just all the ways that football kind of intertwines in everybody's lives. It's super cool. And look, I'm going to sit here and talk Saints all day, because a huge thing just happened with Saints news. We finally got ourselves a quarterback. Derek Carr is coming on, $100 million guaranteed contract. I'm personally really excited about it, and here's why. And I posted a TikTok about this the other day, right? Derek Carr has never had the support of his general management and ownership. He just bit the bullet year after year for 9 years with the Raiders. Mickey Loomis is the most stable ship as a GM that there can possibly be. He's a salary cap gymnast. He's I'd say a 10 out of 10 in the draft, right? He's always known how to draft good talent. There's just not going to be this turbulence that Derek Carr has dealt with. And additionally, the Saints are a top 10 defense year over year over year. Well, Derek Carr's never had so much as a top 20 defense his entire career. So people are like, his completion percentage, his win percentage, they're not where they need to be at. I disagree. I think that Derek Carr is a great fit for the Saints. I think that he is going to add to some of that stability. And again, I look around the NFC South, right? And we'll get into this conversation. Right? Falcons are not pursuing Lamar. We don't know what Tampa's doing at quarterback. The Panthers are not pursuing Lamar. So far, that's the best quarterback in the NFC South. And we saw what a good quarterback in a weak NFC division was able to do when it came to Green Bay beating up on the rest of the NFC North year after year after year. I think we're in a really good spot to see Derek Carr take the Saints to new heights and win the NFC South next year.
Yeah, you have every right to be excited, John. And I can tell you were prepared to have that. You did not. It's like you were ready. You were just like a loaded gun going off with every single reason why. Listen, you have every reason to be happy. And, Derek Carr is one of those talented dudes that just the situation's never been right. And that happens all the time in football. I mean, we've talked about before on the show where guys in the wrong situations, sometimes you give them the right situation, they become something really special. And Derek Carr has shown signs of being special. He just never had the team around him. He's had coaching issues. The Raiders have just been a disaster basically the entire time he's been there. He's been the only stable thing that they've had. And so I'm excited to see him get a new opportunity. I know he's probably fired up and it's a challenge and an opportunity to prove a lot of people wrong. Anytime you're treated wrongly by a team that you gave everything you had to, you're going to want to prove those people wrong. They gave up on him and he said, okay, well, I'm going to go prove you wrong. And I hope he does. And you get to be the benefactor of that, being a Saints fan. And that's awesome for you. But we have a ton of news, dude. We have a ton of news. So we get to lead with your thing.
Yep. And then, next one, Lamar Jackson got the non-exclusive franchise tag, which I believe locks him in for $32 million for this year. And look, from what I can tell, all the rumors buzzing around the NFL right now, Lamar is not happy to be a Raven. Period.
John, do you want to explain? Because some people get a little bit confused with the franchise tag, right? If you don't follow football very closely, if you want to kind of explain what that is a little bit, or just kind of give a general.
So every NFL team gets to use one franchise tag for one player a year, and it's usually a high value position player. For this run, it was a lot of quarterbacks and it was a lot of running backs, but it can be applied to anybody. And so this entire exclusive franchise tag thing is actually kind of a new concept to me too. So I'm sorry if I botched the explanation there, but for a standard non-exclusive franchise tag, basically what it is we're not locking you in for a long-term contract. We are going to give you the average of the top 5 salaries at your position for this year, right? So it's by no means screwing the player over, right? He's a top 5 paid player in the league as a result of the franchise tag. And that allows them to prolong having to get a long-term deal done. So it's, good for the team tagging the player more often than it is good for the player because it's only a 1-year thing. There's no long-term obligation there. And then the exclusive franchise tag, I believe it raises the salary some amount. And then it says that the player cannot get out of that agreement whatsoever unless a team comes with, I think, 2 first-round picks to trade.
It's such a complex thing, dude. And honestly, I never understood it until a couple years ago. There's just so many moving parts with it, and it's become much more common for teams to use it in recent years. I don't think it used to be as common, but I mean, it's a no-brainer for the Ravens to do this. In my opinion, you have Lamar Jackson, who I think he's a high-risk player. You know what I mean? Like his play style's risky. He has shown that he can win football games, but he hasn't won the big ones yet, right? The playoff games, he hasn't been able to kind of take them where they need to go. And they've had some really good teams, really good defenses, and really good running games. I think this is the right move by them. And it's going to be a matter of what Lamar takes of it, right? I think in the coming days, we'll probably find out what's going to happen here. But yeah, I mean, it's big if they're able to keep him on the tag. I think Lamar would be dumb to not.
It's $32 million in 1 year, which is about how much he got paid for his rookie contract total over 5 years.
Yeah.
So
and if he plays well, he's going to get a fat, Deshaun Watson sized contract the following.
But here's the thing is that it's a whole additional year in which Lamar now needs to be very careful about his injury status, which I guarantee you he will be. I guarantee you he'll be running out of bounds more than he'll be charging through runs, that kind of situation. The other thing too is that when this franchise tag happened, all in unison, right? Like a choir almost. Miami, Atlanta, Raiders, I think there was one other franchise that I might be forgetting, all came out and said we are not pursuing a trade for Lamar Jackson as a result of this franchise tag. And I forgot who it was that I saw on Twitter mention this, but I agree with the sentiment, which is, could this be the ownership and the management of all of these teams saying in unison, no, a Deshaun Watson contract is not the market. We're not doing that. If you want that type of contract, you talk to the Browns about it. The rest of us are not interested in $200 million guaranteed contracts. Like, that's ridiculous. It breaks the market. It's not conducive for a successful
It's an interesting theory. I mean, listen, you know that the owners are all connected, man. I mean, listen, there's not, once you're in the billionaire category and you own an NFL team, I mean, you pretty much hang out with other billionaires, and that's like, I mean, that's your life.
It's a little exclusive club.
It's an exclusive. It's the billionaire club, and billionaires that own teams are even more exclusive. So, I mean, just ask, Amazon, trying to get in and have their hands on the Washington Commanders and, Jeff Bezos and all these people. And it's like,
and then Dan Snyder was like, no, like,
dude, because they don't want to let a new guy in, you could have a point there. Obviously conspiracy, who knows if we'll ever know the truth there, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on. And then you want to talk, we'll stay in the quarterback category here. You can be as fired up as you want about Derek Carr. I'm fired up to see Aaron Rodgers. And it sounds like the New York Jets is becoming more and more of a reality. Obviously, it's, John, you said before we came on here, you think 80% leaning that way. I think I don't know with Rodgers that you can ever set a percentage, because he's just so, he's Aaron Rodgers. He's just one of a kind. You don't know where he's going to end up.
I'm at a point now, and this is just my analysis on this, right? He's not retiring, because who the hell would want to retire not making the playoffs for the first time as a starting quarterback?
And the money, he's not walking away from that money.
He's not walking away from that money, because I don't care how wealthy you already are and successful you already are.
It's a lot of money.
He's due for $40 million this year. No matter which way you shake it down, be it dead cap or whatever, like $40 million is the price tag. Then you have Green Bay, who sounds pretty eager to move on because they're done with doing the Aaron Rodgers show every offseason, right? Because honestly, I think it's distracting for how they build out the rest of the team. And then you have the Jets flying to Green Bay today as we record this to talk to Aaron Rodgers and the management directly about what has to get done in order to make this trade happen. To me, like, that's why I put 80%, right? Like, this is the most I've seen point in one direction towards Aaron Rodgers not being a Green Bay Packer than I've seen in the past 3 years of all these stupid shenanigans that we have to deal with every year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think if you're the Jets, I think it's the right move. I mean, you have, if there's ever a time to go all in, I mean, we saw with the Rams, and how Coach Bono said, if there's a chemistry,
talented young talent, decent offensive line,
dude. Hackett has a chemistry that worked with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, you're looking at 2 MVP seasons with that guy. So
top 5 defense in the league. Like,
yeah, I mean, you listen, the chemistry's there between your quarterback and your play caller. You have a great defense, like you just mentioned. You have a team that's never been hungrier to win. That's been in a winning drought forever, it seems like. And, it's a big market media, and Aaron Rodgers clearly likes the spotlight. I don't really see where this doesn't happen. But again, I'm not going to ever say something's set, because that dude is, you never know. I mean, he might crawl back into a hole for the next 5 days and come out and say that he wants to go to the Arizona Cardinals. Like, I mean, no one knows what he's going to want.
Or, he just stays as a Packer because they're not able to figure out a package that makes sense for both organizations.
Yeah, I mean, there's a chance. That kind of similar thing happened last year. It's obviously way worse this year than it was last year, but you just never know.
Yeah, and I don't even know if Aaron Rodgers has any contempt for Green Bay. I really don't think that's the vibe. I think generally speaking, because obviously last year they were really on the same page. Any of the beef that they had to get figured out, they got figured out, and they signed him to a huge ass contract. So that's clearly not the issue. But I do think that Aaron Rodgers wants to win, and I think that Green Bay is like, okay, we made this investment in Jordan Love, and he is not going to be a Green Bay Packer next year unless we actually try to act on, playing him. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, we're going to be covering this every single week until, there's
which he loves and which he wants.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And we do it every season. We bite every single season because it's impossible not to. So
he's a special player, man. He's a special player. Speaking of special players, Derrick Henry, on the trading block?
So Titans are imploding. We had JP Kirby on about a month ago, big Titans fan, to kind of talk about everything. I guess they just don't like having talented players.
This is kind of what he asked for. He kind of asked for, if you're gonna get rid of AJ Brown, you're gonna get rid of Tannehill, you're gonna do all this stuff. You might as well just kind of like
reset. Yeah, exactly. New GM, so he's obviously going to want his own guys with his own contract negotiations in there. And honestly, man, like the Derrick Henry market is going to be hot. Buffalo could use it. Texans, I think, might be interested.
We've said this, John. We've said this a million times on this show, but you're dumb if you pay a running back. I don't care how. I really don't care if you pay a running back that's in his prime already. It's too late because he's got maybe 1 or 2 years left of this level of play. He already has had injury issues the last 2 seasons.
I think Henry is aware of that, and I don't think he's going to try to break the market, because I think if he tries to break the market, he's not going to get what he wants out of the situation. I don't know
what happened with Le'Veon Bell when he was the peak, running back,
right? 2 years in a row, just a fantasy
2 years in a row, just dominated, catching balls out of the backfield, running. He had this weird patient run style that everyone fell in love with, and he bet on himself, and he said, I'm the best running back and I need to get that money. He screwed himself out of a lot of money. And I don't know if Derrick Henry is going to do anything like that, but I think
look at
Ezekiel Elliott. Look at Ezekiel Elliott. They had to franchise tag Tony Pollard, who's a better player right now than Ezekiel Elliott. It's not even close.
Yep.
But no one wants to eat that Ezekiel Elliott contract.
And honestly, that's why I want the Lions to move off of Swift. And I know we have disagreements there. Jamal Williams is not going to break the bank. He knows the type of player he is, and he knows his fit in Detroit is special. And it sounds like they actually already got a deal done, but they can't officially sign the paperwork until the 15th. Yeah,
he tweeted something that was pretty obvious that he's sticking around.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously he wouldn't do that unless him and Holmes had a pretty solid conversation around the same page. I think this is the year that we need to draft Swift's replacement, though. Very deep running back class. If we don't go for, a guy like Bijan, like there's still Tank Bigsby or like other, 5, 6, 7, 8 other running backs that you could grab in the 2nd or 3rd round that would be plenty effective. And behind that offensive line, right? Like that's not a position you want to break the bank for. So we'll see what happens. Buffalo's running back needy. Henry has a better chance of winning there, so he might bring down, the cost a little bit just because of that. We'll see what happens.
What are you thinking about? We have Geno Smith and Daniel Jones also kind of. Those are like the lower level quarterbacks.
And frankly, both of them surprised the shit out of me. I thought Seahawks were a lock for drafting a quarterback because
Geno didn't surprise me.
He surprised me.
He played really well.
He played really well, but a 3-year contract where I believe all 3 years are guaranteed, right? You're looking at that and you're saying, okay, if you're going to draft a quarterback this year, are you set on having him sit behind Geno Smith for 3 years? I don't know if that's the strategy. I guess we'll find out. But
here's my thought with it, John, and this is always going to be a quarterback discussion thing with teams that are in that situation, right? You have a guy who's above average, he played way better than people expected him to. You don't know if it's going to last. Do you bet on him, right, with 10 years of experience in the league, and he's learned from some really good veterans, and he showed he can take a team to the playoffs last year? Or do you go bet on a guy coming out of college who's 23 years old? And I don't care how good they are.
Like, why don't you sign Geno to like a 2-year deal then?
Yeah.
Right? Like that's a lot of guaranteed money, and it's a pretty lengthy amount of time if you're thinking rookie quarterback this year, which maybe they're not, right? So I love the idea of having a guy develop behind a vet, right? Like that's why the more I've thought about it, the more I wouldn't hate if the Lions drafted a quarterback this year. I'd prefer next year when they did that, but I would understand
it would have to be late, and it would have to be Max Duggan for me to approve it. Anyone else, I don't think.
Even like Hendon Hooker in the 3rd round, maybe like
too early, dude. I don't think we draft a quarterback that high. Even if he's available, I don't think this isn't a very strong quarterback class, really. To be honest with you, I mean,
Stetson Bennett in the 5th or 6th round, maybe. Like I wouldn't be mad about that.
I would be anybody that, I mean, anything past the 4th round, I would say even past the 5th round. Like if you can get a 6th or 7th round quarterback like Stetson Bennett or Max Duggan, I don't know if they'll drop that far. They might. But yeah, I think if you're the Lions, your time is now. I think you got to invest in guys that are going to play for you right now.
Right. Which is why I'm hoping like it's Jalen Carter, Will Anderson, Tyree Wilson at 6, like one of those. Right.
And not to be, Jalen Carter obviously having some legal issues going on.
Oh, we haven't even talked about that on the cast yet. That happened, I think, the day after, right?
I'm hoping that affects his draft stock a little bit, selfishly.
Yeah, and I don't look. Here's what I'm thinking, right? Obviously, a bad decision was made. People are like, oh, like character issues. First of all, this was the night of their celebration of winning the national championship. I'm not going to attribute them celebrating in a dumb way as a overall conducive character issue. Second of all, I don't think anybody's beat themselves up over that situation that resulted in the death of one of his teammates more than he has, right? Like, so I don't think this is like, oh, like this dude's going to be a draft bust because he's a POS human being, like, Henry Ruggs situation or whatever. Was what he was doing stupid? Yes,
yeah,
absolutely. Do I think that this makes him a bad person or a bad football player? I struggle to make that claim, and I do also selfishly hope that this affects.
I just hope that it makes 4 teams think that he's a bad person,
right, or too risky or whatever it could be.
I just hope that it affects him enough to fall, maybe 5 or 6 draft spots.
Yeah. And again, Aiden Hutchinson was the most double-teamed rookie in the league last year. This is why Mark and I are so high on getting either interior defensive line or another stud edge rusher in the first round this year, because of the fact that you can't double-team everybody, right? And if Jalen Carter's in the middle there, you sure as hell can't double-team Houston and Hutchinson coming off the edge. So,
dude, speaking of some legal issues, we have our boy, Jackson Mahomes.
Oh, God. I was like, what the hell are you talking about at first? Yeah, so for those that aren't aware, apparently Jackson Mahomes likes to try to make some moves on some guys that really do not appreciate said thing happening. Apparently he tried to repeatedly kiss a man that was not at all for that situation.
I think it was a woman, John.
Was it a woman?
I think it was a woman. I know you're assuming that Jackson Mahomes might not be on the straight side of things.
No, he's openly gay, I'm pretty sure, isn't he?
I think he's bi. I don't know, but it was a woman in the video.
Okay. Got you. But then he also pushed a waitress over as well in this entire incident. So it sounds like he was hammered and really making an ass of himself. And Mark and I have said this a couple times on the podcast. I feel really bad for Pat because of the fact that and really any athlete or successful person that has family members riding off of the coattails of their success that haven't done shit with their entire lives, that are then taking advantage of their family members' success to go and continue to be crummy human beings, right?
There's no secret, the Chiefs won it all this year, and Jackson Mahomes was not at many of the games, or wasn't publicly, doing what he did a few years ago, where it just became dude, stop trying to steal the spotlight. Your
Pat
brother is
privately asked him to stop. Had to have
him and his wife, dude. His wife, I hate to talk trash about his wife, but his wife was just as annoying, and those two together was just a nightmare combination.
She's annoying. I just don't think she's a bad person.
No, she's not a bad person, and I don't think Jackson's
and they're
necessarily a bad person.
They're college sweethearts too, or whatever. So whatever. I'm not going to high school sweethearts. So I'm not going to.
Sounds familiar, John.
Wife. Yeah, exactly. For those that don't know, me and my girlfriend have been together for we're actually middle school sweethearts, eighth grade. Yeah, coming up on 10 years together. Going on vacation together soon. We really can't wait. She's an all-star. Didn't meet through football, met through music. So
yeah, I still remember you asking me all nervous, dude, should I just talk to her? She's this, she's that. I'm like, dude, just it can't hurt to ask her. And you did, and you just never looked back,
Yeah, absolutely. It is. Anyways, I guess it's my love life podcast, but just on
welcome to the new love show. We'll talk about John's love story, and it will take up probably 10 episodes because he's been dating her for 11 years.
Yeah, we'll just do an episode a year of our relationship.
We'll get Hannah on who will see her side of things.
Dude, it'd be fun having Hannah on as a guest host because Dude, I gotta see how quickly I can pull up this picture. We'll kind of try to figure it out as we continue the conversation. I gotta show what her Super Bowl spread was food wise this past year.
Oh, dude,
like
no
11 out of 10. It was unreal.
No doubt about it.
So
hey,
anyways,
John, while you're finding that, pull up that clip of the podcasters.
Oh my gosh, yes.
This is non-football related, but this I was just scrolling and saw
the kid's
this.
in a football jersey when it happened, so
yeah,
I don't know.
mean,
here, let me pull this up.
Pull this up, and then you find. And I want to talk about this because I don't know if people saw this. I don't know if this can't be staged. Like maybe I don't know. Like I highly doubt it's staged, but it looks like a pretty natural reaction. But I just can't even imagine. Like, this is why me and John do our podcast inside in different locations. Like, if me and John were sitting there and a car came, first of all, how does that car not just like run right through him?
Dude, I think like the metal bar right here literally saved their lives. And yeah, I mean, it definitely wasn't staged. Like, that car crashed. It looks like they were in a police chase or something. We'll run it back here and see like,
is there a chance that we're getting bamboozled and this is just like, scripted here?
Well, because the police car pulls up not 20 seconds after that happened. So I think there was like a police chase or something.
Maybe. I mean, they did cut the clip and stuff. I don't know. Maybe we're getting bamboozled, but if this is real, is one of the craziest things I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's something else for sure. It's pretty crazy.
You have to be brave to podcast, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. Could you imagine like if that happened? Like if I was now we've had to deal with some things on the podcast while we were filming. I don't know if I've ever actually shared this with the podcast, but like one of the mornings that Mark and I filmed back in the early days, it was like during the summer. My cat was trapped in here with me because usually she'll be out here like just meowing outside of the door the entire time if I don't bring her in here with me. Little did I know she had to take a dump. And while we're filming, she took it like right next to me, right here. And I had to deal with the wonderful smell of that was literally like the entire rest of the time that Mark and I were filming. So,
and that's why you're an American hero, John.
I guess so. Is I just
you fought through.
Now, if a car came and crashed through my 5th story apartment,
maybe like a huge bird could fly in.
Also,
just like
perfect timing here. I think I almost have a picture of this spread. If not, no, haven't found it yet. We'll get there though. We'll get there soon.
No worries. I'll start talking about. I have a rant. Can I go on my rant while you find that?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so my rant, and I did a little TikTok on this, but I have much more to say. It was hard to fit it all in a 60-second rant. The NFL Combine was this past weekend, and
we haven't even started talking about it yet, which is hilarious.
People get into this obsession with the Combine, and I get it. It's kind of exciting to watch the future of the NFL kind of come out and compete a little bit and run around, and yeah, you get your 40 and how high you can jump or how far you can jump. I get it. Whatever. Okay. It's cool to see that. And it's cool to see these great athletes accomplish amazing, physical things. But the game of football is a very specific, attention focused sport. And if, some of the stuff that you heard Coach Bono talk about, like it doesn't translate with the Combine. Like the Combine does not represent what football is. Like football is physical. There's contact. It's so much more. I mean, you see such a variety of different types of people playing in the NFL, sizes and, variations of personality. And it's like, you don't see that when you put them in a combine, you just say, run there as fast as you can, or jump and try to hit this thing, or, bench press. Like, it doesn't matter. Why does it matter what a 375-pound offensive lineman from Ohio State runs in the 40? Why does it matter what Hunter Renfrow benches? What are we? It doesn't matter, right? There's certain things that matter, certain things that don't. And the Combine loves to obsess over things that do not matter. And I hate it. And I'll still watch it, but it's like,
can I take the middle ground on this? Can I like, because to some degree I agree. And I love what Dan Campbell said about it. And he's like, if I want to see how good a football player is, I watch them play football. I don't really care about them running around in pajamas. And I thought that quote was amazing. But at the same time, I like, there is a showcase of raw athletic ability. And I think a lot of coaches go, okay, he's got the athletic ability. How do I refine that raw athletic ability into something that is effective at the NFL level? And like the main name that I want to talk about here that I think is relevant is Anthony Richardson, right? Because as far as raw athletic ability goes, he was hands down the most athletic quarterback in the draft. That doesn't mean he's the best quarterback in the draft. I think he's far from it. I think that both Stroud and Young are hands down better quarterbacks than him as of this moment. But when people see what guys like Lamar Jackson can do, right, with both a really good arm talent, a lot of strength, and the ability to run, and they see what Richardson accomplished, they get excited, right? And I understand, say a coach who just went to the Colts, that was on the Eagles, right?
I forget his name.
New head coach.
Steichen or something?
Steichen. Shane Steichen. He was able to develop Hurts from a raw athletic talent with good combine numbers that people talk shit about for 2 years straight into a really refined, smart, talented NFL player. And so it depends on the coaching fit. It depends on how, right. But guys like Malik Willis, right, that was not totally the same situation, because I think like you look at that and you say, okay, it's just the raw athletic ability. There was a lot of quarterbacking that needed to get improved upon, and that's why he went in the 3rd round. Richardson, I think, might be a different story. Maybe I'm getting this wrong.
All I'm saying is that, this excitement you're talking about, watch people natural athleticism. It's like, if you're at that point in your career and that natural athleticism hasn't taken you to successful heights of winning football games at a high level, then it probably never will. Like, there's 1% of the time where you find a guy like that and it actually translates. And Jalen Hurts, you can use that comparison, but Jalen Hurts won a national championship. Jalen Hurts was playing in the biggest football games every single year.
Right.
And was doing very well in them. Anthony Richardson started, I think, 7 or 9 games last year and was like 3-4. And I understand he doesn't have a huge, sample to look at, but like, if you just watch like his normal mechanics and him throw the ball, like, he's not, besides having a big arm, he's not very accurate. He's not very accurate. He's just kind of a raw project. And you watch CJ Stroud throw the ball and it's like, holy shit, this guy's ready to go play in the NFL. There's a difference. And
yeah, he was clearly a better NFL player, like NFL ready player than Richardson.
Like, Anthony Richardson will never play in the NFL. Like, I'm going to say that in stamp. Like, he will be
that
like
Malik
Willis.
Might age like milk.
No,
Mark.
That take will age very, very well, because some idiot team will draft him in like the 3rd round because of how he performed in the combine. When had he not, that's the problem with the combine, is it gives you this false story about a player. Like, if you just watch his film, Anthony Richardson is not
I don't think he's a top 5 pick. Don't get me wrong, but like,
he's not even a dude. He's not worth. He should be drafted in the 4th or 5th round.
I would put money that he's going in the 1st round.
I agree. No, I don't think he gets drafted in the 1st round. I think he gets drafted in the 2nd round or 3rd round, and I think that that's too early. And I think the only reason he's getting drafted there is because of this belief that you just mentioned, because of what he performed at the combine. Which, again, what you do at the combine should not affect your draft status that much. It should just confirm something that you already see in someone.
Okay.
Like what Stroud
let me give you a different example. Jordan Davis.
Jordan Davis has the film. He has, again, if the combine confirms something that's already been shown on film, great. But you don't need the combine to do that.
His draft stock skyrocketed with his showcase of athletic ability.
But he was already going to be a 1st round pick. I mean, he was on one of the best defenses America's ever seen.
That's true.
And he was, I mean, you saw him, that stuff that you saw in the combine showed on his film.
Yeah.
Right. So,
and frankly, it translated.
You're not wrong all the time, right? There are times where there's like rare talents, of guys that people are like, hey, he's not going to be great. And then they end up being great. But I'm telling you, like, it's very rare. And especially at the quarterback position, there's just so many other factors that go into it. And Anthony Richardson did not show anything really on film besides a couple exciting plays, which, if you're a freak athlete, you're going to make exciting plays. It happens. But to do it consistently is what makes a quarterback great.
You're missing
CJ Stroud
and stuff like
CJ
that.
Stroud's the example, right? CJ Stroud's the example. He performed. He was a Heisman finalist, back-to-back seasons at Ohio State, showed it on film for a long time, came to the combine and confirmed what people thought about him. He can throw the hell out of the ball and is incredibly accurate. and it has an incredibly quick release. And he's the full package. He could maybe be the first overall pick now. That's the kind of combine stuff you want to see, not some,
Why
Anthony
didn't
Richardson.
Young throw, by the way? Do you know?
I don't know. I mean, I find that also interesting that some guys choose to not run or not throw. And, like Jackson Smith-Njigba, for example, is not going to be the first receiver taken, probably won't be the second or third receiver taken.
Which is a damn shame.
Which is
might
nuts.
Be the most complete receiver.
He is by far the best complete receiver in this draft and would have been in the last year's draft. And both Ohio State receivers that were drafted in the first round have confirmed that Jackson Smith-Njigba is better than both of us. And he will slip. And I'm just saying it right now. Some team's going to get a steal.
Oh, totally.
And
really
he's
quick,
another guy
too,
that confirmed
I know we're a little bit removed from the conversation, but I was pretty proud of the Super Bowl spread right here. I mean, we hosted
that's worth looking at. Yeah. I mean, we got pizza and mac and cheese. It looks like some chips.
Is it buffalo chicken dip, pizza, Chick-fil-A on a Sunday, right? How we made that happen, right? It's I never reveal my secrets. You got deviled eggs. Points. We got pretzels, everything you could imagine, right?
I mean, it makes me want to, I haven't eaten anything today. It makes me just want to go devour some food right now. Yeah, I mean, that was definitely worth looking at. But
just thought it was worth pulling.
I got sidetracked.
Shout out,
but
Hannah
her shout out Hannah. And shout out to the NFL Combine. It's just a scam, dude. It's just it is 99%.
Shout out Jalen Ramsey, he sucks. Shout out to the Combine. It's a scam.
And shout out to Hannah. She's legit. But 99% of the Combine stuff is a joke, John. And you know it. And you just want to buy into the Anthony Richardson hype because it would be so.
I don't actually. I would not be super stoked if the Lions were to take him. I don't think Brad Holmes bites on shit like that. Though,
He is not what people are saying he's going to be.
Yeah, I think he still has the potential to be coached into something that is effective at the NFL level, 100%. But again, as you're saying, it would make everybody feel a lot more confident if he put up those numbers and also he had great film, right? Because
the film doesn't lie. I'll end it with this: the film does not lie. The Combine does and often does. Okay. Yeah. That's the moral of the story. That's the moral of the story. And his film is not great. Okay. There's some good and there is some great on it. But overall, I would not say his film's very good. It's very, very average. It's not top 3 round draft pick worthy.
Right.
And some idiot team will take him early, like you said, because of this nonsense.
Well, and then so
I hate that.
You know what just popped in my head? You know where he's probably going to land? Raiders. That's where he's gonna land.
And then he'll be a bust. And
yep. Oh God, the story's already playing out perfectly in my head right now. The Raiders.
You ever heard of Jamarcus Russell?
Oh, just a little bit. Yep. Yeah. So yeah.
You ever heard the story with you ever heard the story with Jamarcus Russell and the game tape that they asked him to study?
No.
All right. Well, this is a lot of people know this story, but I'll tell it for people that don't.
I don't know it, so
yeah, it's a good story. So Jamarcus Russell's #1 overall draft pick. He was one of the most hyped guys coming out of college. Great talent, right? Great talent. He had good film, very good film. He tested well. They bring him in #1 overall draft pick. He's the prodigy. They get into camp, and he was struggling, not getting the playbook, not really committing himself to what they were trying to do. They sent him home with some game tape to study. Okay. Back then it was discs. So he goes home, comes in, they quiz him. They say, okay, well, what did you think of the tape? And he showed his notes and said, whatever. I thought it was great. This is what I took from it. The disc was blank. They didn't put anything on the disc on purpose. And he went and he came in and lied. Shortly after he was cut, probably considered the biggest bust in NFL history.
I did not know that at all.
Yeah. They gave him a blank disc. Yeah, blank disc, nothing on it. And he came in and had this whole thing about what he was watching and what he took from it. And there was nothing on the disc. So that was his rookie year. It doesn't get worse than that. I mean, Kyler Murray playing COD, but it doesn't get worse than someone giving you a blank disc and you come in and you're like, oh, yeah.
I feel the Kyler Murray playing Call of Duty narratives are only going to mount now that he has the ACL situation too, which sucks for him. But also he kind of dug his own grave in that situation. The ACL sucks. I feel really bad about it. I don't want any player to get injured, but now, because of the fact you've already created that narrative for yourself that you like video games more than you like football, people are just going to jump on the dog.
You know what sucks too, John, is like in today's NFL, like so many of these guys are like publicly streamed. Like Tyreek Hill streams like twice a week, like during the season. Sauce Gardner is like become a, he's trying to get into the streaming thing in this offseason. I get like in the offseason, but like, dude, a lot of these guys are like,
I'm honestly not even going to talk shit about that because of the fact
I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm saying like Kyler Murray got a bad rap for doing the same thing.
Oh, got you. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, it sucks because
as soon as your performance on the field doesn't match what people expect, that's the first thing they're going to drop you.
Taylor Lewan got shit for doing a podcast.
Right. And people are allowed to have hobbies because that's the thing. Right. It's like, Mark knows I have a very demanding day job that I think I'm pretty dang good at. And it would really piss me off if after all the dedication I put into that day job, people were like, oh, we see that you're posting a podcast once a week. Like, what are you doing with that extra time? It's like existing, like living, enjoying my free time.
Like these players like can do some other, like, okay, you want to bash Taylor Lewan? Look at the Kelsey brothers. How did their season go? They did a podcast every week.
Yeah, right.
Like it's
and both of them made the Super Bowl.
Right.
Not just
like,
one of them.
What a joke, dude. Like these.
Yeah.
But again, Kyler Murray gets a bad rap, dude. A lot of these players are playing video games. A lot of these guys are younger than you and I. You don't think they're playing the new Call of Duty or Rocket League or The Last of Us or some shit? Like they're doing something.
You started watching The Last of Us?
I have been watching The Last of Us. I didn't play the game. It's
Mark.
Unbelievable.
Like, first of all, if you think the show is unbelievable, which it is, it's some of the best TV I've watched.
You're like the 30th person that's told me this.
The game, though,
and I don't doubt it. I've seen some of the side by side clips too of like the show with the video game, and it's like really. I mean, it makes me. It's really accurate. One, but two.
When the show's over, just go. The remastered version is on PlayStation for probably
I'm gonna have to
$30 right now, and I guarantee you that game is the most. I wouldn't say it's the scariest game I've ever played, but it's easily the most suspenseful because your ammo supply is always very low, and so you have to get really creative on how you're going to survive each stage, and it gets very tough. That's all I'm going to say about that. Also, shout out to God of War. I've been playing that game a lot in my free time. Incredible game.
I never got big into God of War, but
both of those.
Yeah, I mean, the moral of the story is these guys are humans, and if me and John can sit around and play video games for a couple hours, sometimes when we want to just kind of take it easy, or we want to do a podcast and on top of like what we do in our everyday life, I think that these players definitely can handle a little bit of that. And as long as like your performance doesn't drastically change and you never, dude, who knows what else Kyler Murray was going through? Maybe he had some personal issue. Like maybe he just wasn't, clicking with the offensive system. Like, again, we talk about chemistry. He clearly didn't have a great one with Cliff Kingsbury.
Well, and we said this last week too. Like these guys are not video game characters; they're humans at the end of the day. And sometimes they have shitty days, and sometimes they have lagging injuries that they play through. And like it's really important to remember that human element of not just NFL players, but really anybody that has like status in life. That they're just like anybody else at the end of the day, and they have feelings and emotions and blah blah blah. One free agency related thing that I wanted to mention before it gets lost in the shuffle, because I actually think this is a great opportunity. Byron Jones, who is a cornerback for the Miami Dolphins, got released today. I believe his contract, don't quote me the exact number, but I think it was like $13 million. Let's see if I can pull the tweet that I sent to Mark. $13.6 million is what Miami saved against the salary cap by cutting him. Look, if Detroit throws, say, the same kind of money that we threw at DJ Chark last year, like 9-10 mil to have another reliable corner in the building, and then we still look at maybe drafting a corner in the second round, I would feel so much better about our defensive backfield situation. We already got a guy in Walker. We already got a guy in Joseph. We already got a guy in Jerry Jacobs, who is a freaking undrafted free agent signing from Holmes, which I didn't know personally. That was, and he's better than Okuda, in my opinion. Like that would make me feel.
I'm not against it, honestly. John, what's our second pick? What's the Lions have the 6th
and 18th, and then we have 2 second rounders and a third.
So hear me out. I know this doesn't make sense for what we have, but if we get to 18 and Jackson Smith and Jigba's there, I think you have to take him.
If you move off of Chark, either that or, again, like I would not be mad about Robinson either, because of the fact that like oh, you don't take a running back in the first round. Okay, do you take a running back in the first round that can catch, has super high football intelligence, playing behind one of the best offensive lines in the league? Like, I care about how effective that player is on your team. That's what makes them a first-round talent to me, not their position. And to me, having that running back on our team with Jamal Williams makes the Lions offense the #1 offense in the league, period. Like, I don't even have to think twice making that claim.
I'm comfortable with what we have at running back and receiver, which is like already, which is the big thing. But like, I'm telling you, man, like both those guys are generational talents, and it's a matter of who gets them. But like, and they're both going to fall in the draft just because of, Robinson's going to fall just because he's a running back. And there's like a narrative that you don't draft running backs high. He'll probably be maybe a top 20 pick. He probably should be a top 8 pick. Like, they're saying he's that good. And then,
if the team,
and if you watch his tape, if you watch his tape, it's no joke. Like, that dude's a freak of nature. And then Jackson Smith and Jigba is arguably the best overall player in the draft. Like, he is unbelievably good. I mean, we saw 2 Ohio State receivers in the NFL last year tear it up as rookies, and both of them said, "This dude's better than us."
I know, it's nuts. So yeah, I'm really curious on what's going to happen with that. Personally, I do not mind going offense at 18 if we grab a edge rusher at 6. That's what I'd like to see personally.
I'm scared we're going to draft a corner at 6, and I'm going to be very angry. I don't care who it is.
Yeah, there's some damn good ones. Don't get me wrong. It's too high.
Can't take it. We not learn from Okudah. Like, the Sauce Gardner thing worked out for them, but there's a lot of times where DBs are risky to take.
Well, and if I'm thinking properly, Sauce was the second DB off of the board behind Stingley, right?
He was, but they went 3-5, I think.
Yeah, so all worth considering. I think that overall, like, I would really, really prefer to see us take an edge rusher and an interior defensive line at that position. And by naming those positions, I mean I want to see Jalen Carter, Anderson, or Tyree Wilson. I think Wilson is in that same conversation as those other 2 guys as far as talent goes. You watch his tape;
I think
really,
he's a little bit behind. He's a hell of a player, but I just think Will Anderson is in a category of his own.
Yes,
and then I think that those guys are below him. But Will Anderson he's probably the best, if not second best, behind Jackson Smith and Jigba, player in the draft overall.
No, oh man, so I was gonna mention this to you. Obviously, I'm on vacation next week. The week after that, I do think we should start doing some mock draft stuff. I think it'd actually be fun if we had some guests on. Had everybody like pick whatever team they wanted, right? Like, you can pick the Lions, I'll pick the Saints, whoever, like, and then we all just go through and go through a mock draft, explain our picks, maybe even try to make a couple trades. Because, I was also playing around, like, trading with the Seahawks doesn't seem like a horrible idea if you're the Lions. Trading with the Saints doesn't seem like a horrible idea.
If you can't get Jalen Carter or Will Anderson at 6, I think it's a no-brainer you trade our pick, because you can get the defensive back you want at 11, 12.
Well, and could you imagine, say, Brad Holmes with 3 first-round picks to work with?
That's what I'm saying, dude. Like, and again, the guy you want is going to be there at 11 probably. If Jalen Carter or Will Anderson's not there, then the next best guy that's assist will probably be there at 11 or 12. Or if you want to try to go and get risky and take a Robinson or a Jackson Smith, he'll be one of those guys is going to be there at 18, I think.
Right. And once again, like, I really, really trust Brad Holmes' ability to evaluate players at any point in the draft. Be it first round, 5th round, 6th round. He's clearly shown that he sees things in players that not everybody sees. And I'd say he has an 80% hit rate out of the guys that he drafts out of these past 2 classes. And that might even be lowballing a little bit. So to me, it's like, whatever that dude wants to do, I'm for it. Don't draft Anthony Richardson at 6. Maybe that might be the only thing that pisses me off.
I'll jump off of a bridge, I think, if that happens.
You're so dramatic.
I didn't say I would die. I just jump off a bridge into some water and hope I drown.
Oh man. Is there any other topics you want to cover? I mean, we're 90 minutes into this episode.
This was a hell of an episode, though.
It's been a blast. I kind of want to keep going, but I just don't have anything more football related to talk.
It's a really fun episode. we've covered just about everything there is in the news world. This was a crazy free agency trade week overall.
Yeah.
And I think we covered most of it. Obviously there's always going to be more, and stuff's always happening. And, there's only a couple guys like Adam Schefter in the world that can kind of have those news like breaking like that. Me and John, unfortunately, can't do that because we have, lives to live. But this was an awesome episode. And again, we want to thank Coach Bono for coming on. I just think he was able to tell some really cool stories from perspective that you just don't get typically,
No, it was amazing having him on. And I mean, we had probably 35-40 minutes of his time there. And again, just like all of the experiences he's allowed to draw from. I mean, he has a full career of doing stuff at the highest level, and it's just amazing. And again, I got to shout out Mark every time because he's the one working these connections, man. My football career ended my senior year of high school. Mark went on to play at the next level for a little while, and he definitely seemed like he made it worth his while because of the fact that he has all these amazing people we get to bring on as guests. And it's my goal for this year to bring on a couple guys myself. I just, got to work some different connections than Mark does with that Central Michigan rock that he has that allows him to kind of branch out to all the other places in the league.
Yeah, we've got a lot of stuff in the works. We'll say that there's definitely some awesome guests that we are working on getting on. We've already had so many great ones. This is part of another, probably my favorite part of what we do with the show is, me and John can talk all day long about football, but I think it's really special when you bring in a different face, whether it's one of our friends, whether it's somebody that is, around the league or around college football or a super fan or whatever it is, but just hearing somebody else come in and have a perspective and kind of provide a different voice. That's my favorite part, dude. It just brings people together, man. Football brings people together, and we do a good job, I think, of getting guys on here and just talking ball and bringing people in and talking football. That's what people want to do anyway. Might as well do it on a podcast.
Exactly. And I think we're keeping things plenty entertaining in the off season so far. And things are just only going to heat up. So I think we should start live streaming a little more often too, especially as we kind of get closer to the draft. I just think there's a lot of fun shit to happen there. So we appreciate everybody's attention. This was a super fun episode. And as Mark alluded to, we got more to come. Also, buy our merch and subscribe and follow us on social media and all that stuff. I don't think we do a great job plugging on the podcast.
We really do appreciate the support we get, man. John, again, this past weekend, I didn't even tell you, but I bumped into some people that I hadn't seen in a while. And one of the first things they brought up was that they really like listening to our podcast. And it just is cool. It's reassuring and it's humbling to hear people say that, but we do appreciate it. And if you guys give us any support and share with friends and family, it's worth a listen.
If you just want to argue with us about our shitty takes on social media,
if you want to just judge, if you just want to judge John and tell him to get a haircut, it doesn't matter what you want to do.
Trim my beard every once in a while or something like that. I actually did get that shit lined up today.
Yeah, the beard's lined up real nice today.
Yeah, we're looking all right. We're looking all right. Anyways, we will see you guys next week. It will probably be a shorter episode as I will be streaming from vacation, but it should be a good time. We will catch you guys then. Mark, you seem like you have something you got to say before I sign off here.
John's going to be in freaking paradise and I'm going to be sitting in this damn home office, and I'm just going to be wanting to punch him through the screen. So yeah, next week's episode will be fun. John will be recording from, an undisclosed location of paradise, and it'll be good. It'll be fun. We'll probably have a ton of new news.
I'll disclose it next week. It should be a good time. We will catch you guys later. I'm sure some of these kind of free agency debacles are going to oh man,
John, they're going to think
it'll be the eve of free agency.
They're going to think that you have a fake background, but it's not. Awesome. It's his real vacation that he's just a baller and is going on. And I'm very jealous.
Hey,
so
I did a lot of boring stuff through my college years in order to get to doing fun stuff post college. So that's all I'll say. This has been the longest outro I think we've ever had. We will catch you guys next week. Peace.
See you guys.